everybody, this is Monty Reed for Get Started Don't Quit. The website is getstarted-don'tquit.com, and that's the name of my first book that came out. And it's being edited right now for the second edition and electronic version that will be available by February 2017. So that's an update on Get Started Don't Quit, getstarteddon'tquit.com, and the new book, the new edition, second edition of the book. There'll be some extra chapters in there and actually some pictures. And just want to thank everybody who purchased the first edition. Those are all autographed, so I hope you enjoy those. The first 250 were autographed. And we're going to have, we're doing a fundraiser now to raise money for publishing the second edition. And you can pre-order by going to getstarted-don'tquit.com and place your order for a pre-order for the book. And those will be coming out in February 2017. So if you want to get some extra copies, if you buy 10 copies or more, you get listed in the front of the book. So we want to thank you for that. And of course, if your company wants to get your name or logo on the website and in the book, you can also purchase 50 or 100 copies of the book, and you'll get listed as one of the company sponsors for the book. So we want to thank you for that. Everybody who joins in and pre-orders the book, you're going to help us to get it published quicker. We've got a great editor, and again, I want to thank everybody who sent in comments with the typos and spelling errors. Everyone knows I have a learning disability, so it's amazing that I was able to get the book written and published. And so I want to thank you all for being my proofreaders and letting me know about the challenges that we've had. And we pass that on to our editor that's going to be making this nice, new, clean version of the book. And like I said, extra chapters. And just an overview for those of you who have never read the book. I talk about the robotic exoskeleton and how all of that came to be. And of course, theyshalwalk.org is the charity that is benefiting from the sale of the books. The book was published to help get the LIFESUIT into hospitals, and the LIFESUIT is a robotic exoskeleton or powered suit or exosuit. There's a lot of names for it now. Back in 1986 when I worked on it, there was only 2 references to exoskeletons, and one was Robert Heinlein's powered suit that the soldiers wore. And there was also, in the 1960s, there was a research project funded by the government to build an exoskeleton for warehouses. And the one they were working on looks very much like the device called a loader from Aliens that Ripley, the character played by Sigourney Weaver, drove to take on the alien. And so that device, in case you don't know, is called a loader. Sigourney Weaver's the actress. The character was named Ripley, and she was the lone survivor of the fight with the alien. And in the first movie, in the second one, the little girl makes it as well. And but that device is very popular, and it's not in the first movie. It's actually in the second movie called Aliens. And again, the character's name is Ripley, and everyone knows Sigourney Weaver is the operator. So in 1986, I was a U.S. Army Airborne Ranger, and the reason I was there was when I was in high school, I wanted to be a research scientist. I wanted to have a lab coat. That was my heart's desire, and I felt like God had given me that vision and dream. And I firmly believe that if God gives you a desire of your heart, especially a childhood desire of your heart, He only allows you or gives you that opportunity because you have the ability to do that. When Jesus was here on the earth, right before He left, His disciples asked Him, "How did you do all those miracles?" And He said, "Well, I can do those miracles because my Father's in heaven, and when I pray, He helps to make those miracles happen." He said that I'm going to be in heaven, and when you pray, I'll be up there and He will be up there. So you all have the opportunity to do greater miracles than Jesus Christ Himself did. And that's from His own mouth. That's what He told us. If we're followers of Jesus Christ, we actually have the authority to operate with the power and authority of His name. And so we can do greater miracles than Jesus did. Jesus actually was able to heal the blind, make the lame walk, and even had raised dead people back to life. And he said, you and I can do greater miracles than that. And I believe that we all limit what miracles God is allowed to do in our lives just because of our lack of belief or disbelief. And ye of little faith, you probably heard, faith is the size of a mustard seed. You could tell a mountain to go into the sea. These are all things that Jesus was talking about. So I wanted to be a marine biologist and get a lab coat, and they told me, you're not going to college. And I crushed my dreams, but I thought, well, I want to go big or go home, so what else can I do? I'm qualified to go in the Army as a grunt soldier. Well, if I'm going to go in as a soldier, go big or go home. So I volunteered to be an airborne commando, and they put me into the Army Ranger Battalion, and I jumped out of perfectly good airplanes just to get to work and got paid to blow things up and shoot. And for me, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work, and it was a lot of fun. I'll tell you a secret. I was actually afraid of heights before my first parachute jump, and had 40 good jumps, 39 good landings, a little problem with the parachute. They say it was an accident, but I'm positive. I like to say it was a successful gravity test. I proved that gravity works. And anyway, broke my ankle, broke my back in 5 places. Was shipped off to a hospital down in California. And then they said, your mind's no good, your body's no good. And I didn't know what I was going to do. How could I be any good to God at all? And the reality is, he had plans. And there's a guy named Gideon in the Bible who was hiding from the enemy in a wine press just to have his lunch. He was afraid they were going to kill him. And angel of the Lord came to him and said, hey, buddy, you're going to lead the nations. You're going to be a great warrior. And he's like, are you kidding? I'm here hiding from them, and you're telling me I'm going to be great. And that's kind of how I felt when I had a vision of the robotic life suit, the exoskeleton. In the dream, I was laying in the hospital bed, paralyzed, and I had this dream about a guy who was working at a job site, and he slipped and fell a couple of stories and fell onto a pile of rubble and broke his back, and he was paralyzed. They rushed him off to the hospital, did surgery, stabilized his wounds, and then this guy came in, measured him, and then they put this life suit, robotic exoskeleton on him, and he was able to just think about standing up. And when he thought about it, it would respond and moved his legs, and he stands up. It's basically a hollow robot that you put a paralyzed person in. And it had been programmed to walk, so when he thought about walking, the robot would just walk around, and because he was strapped into it, it would move his body. So he got mobility and physical therapy at the same time, and that's how the life suit works. And recently, there was a study by the Reeves Foundation that proves that 80% of paralyzed people in the world can learn to walk again if they just get enough physical therapy. And the robot suit, the life suit exoskeleton, is the answer to that, because they don't work by the hour, they don't need a lunch break, and they need a little bit of oil once in a while. It's kind of a joke in sci-fi where robots drink oil, but literally it just needs a little oil once in a while and recharges batteries, and it's good to go. So the robotic exoskeleton now is in hospitals everywhere around the world. And so if you're paralyzed watching this, if you know somebody who is, they can apply through their physical therapist and doctor to get access to one of the life suit exoskeletons. And there's several manufacturers now, and they can use those 3 times a week and start to learn to walk again. And then the exciting thing is we're now raising money to develop the home use model that people can use with their wheelchairs, and they can put it on in the morning, get in the wheelchair, drive around, and if they are feeling up to it, they push a button, and then they can stand up and walk. And we are experimenting with the mental control systems, but they're still clunky, and we've got to advance those in the lab. A paralyzed person can think about it, and the suit will stand up and think about walking, and it will walk. It's just not fast enough in real time to be safe. So we're still working on that. We're still developing that. And as we continue to develop that, right now the money we're raising is for a home use model that uses buttons and other adapters. Basically, if anyone can operate or control a powered wheelchair, they will be able to operate or control our exoskeleton with that same controller system. And then once we get that one done, that's basically $200 million is what we need for that project. And after we get that one done, we're going to be working on the biosynthetic muscle fiber suit. Now this is really exciting. You can take undifferentiated cells, and basically for most of the experiments we use freshly fertilized quail egg, and then there's a mixture of some basically food serum for it, and you put it in this mixture, and you can take any human cell, any animal cell from any creature living, and put it into that quail egg, freshly fertilized quail egg mixture, which is all undifferentiated cells, and it will start growing. And it's amazing how compatible everything is when you have undifferentiated cells. And this technology has been around for a few years, but it's really exciting because you can take skeletal muscles tissue and you can mix it into this, and within about 8 weeks you will have live muscle tissue that is alive and twitching. And so the big challenge that we've had so far in skeletal muscle growth is getting the skeletal muscles to attach to the tendons. And so we're experimenting with other lattices, and we found lattice. It's basically stuff that you use to grow things on. So you think of a lattice in a garden. You'd put a lattice and then you have a grapevine growing on it, and then you could have a shaded area under the lattice, or people have a lattice in the front of their house and they have a flower vine or some kind of vine on it. And so in biomedical research, we call it a lattice when you have something that you grow stuff on. And so, well, basically it's kind of a mold, but it's more of a framework that the muscles can grow on. And so the lattice that's most it's really kind of amazing that nitinol is a material that was originally developed as a metal in the Naval Ordnance Labs for a new warhead tip. And it didn't work for that, but they found by mixing nickel and titanium 50%, not in size or volume, but when you look at the molar scale or molecular weight, and you do 50% nickel and 50% titanium, and you combine that as an alloy, that becomes a memory material. And so you can actually crumple it up, like if you have a flat sheet, you can crumple it up, and then it'll store that memory. You heat it, it'll go flat, and then as it cools, it'll crumple back into shape. Or if it's engineered the other way, then you crumple it while it's warm, and then when you cool it, it'll flatten out. So anyway, memory alloys, and we're not actually using the memory alloy property, but it turns out that 50-50 nitinol, nickel titanium, nitinol is a material that the human body will not reject. You've probably heard most medical, like hip ball joints and stuff, are stainless steel, titanium, but they found that nickel titanium combos, or nitinol, actually is the best material. So we use a nitinol mesh to attach the muscles to, and the idea is to combine the muscle tendon and some electronics, and we can create a living tissue fiber, and I call that a biosynthetic muscle fiber. And God showed me a vision of this back in 1986, and I wrote it all down. It wasn't until 1990 that the term nanotech or nanoscale was coined by IBM, when they actually created something that small. But anyway, I have to end the broadcast right now, but I want to encourage you all to check out Get Started, Don't Quit, and go to theyshallwalk.org if you want to support our research project so we can develop the LIFESUIT. Just to finish off that biosynthetic muscle fiber, once we have that, it will expand and contract like a muscle. And then we will weave a suit of clothing that looks very much like a skin diver suit or long underwear. And that will basically A paralyzed person will zip that on, and when they think about walking, it will move for them. And so they're wearing it under their clothes, but it'll help move every limb of their body. There'll be gloves included all the way right up to supporting their neck and everything. So that's the biosynthetic muscle fiber suit. Theyshallwalk.org. GetStartedDon'tQuit.com. That's GetStarted-Don'tQuit.com. This is Monty Reed broadcasting live on YouTube. And everybody have a great day.